All right, what's up, y'all? Let's just talk about adding fractions real quick. What I'm about to talk about applies whether you're adding or subtracting fractions. Usually, the kind of problems that folks have, they're just adding fractions. Um, Very straightforward. The main thing you want to remember is, well, you want to make sure that you distinguish this from multiplying and dividing with fractions. With adding fractions, you have to have the same denominator with the fraction. So, say for example, you have 1/2, 1/2 plus 1/2. 1/2. Wait, let me change that. Let's say you have 1/3 plus 1/3. The answer to that is 2/3. All you do, you add the numerator, which is the top number of the fraction, to the numerator of the other fraction, and you get 2/3. But the only reason you can do that is because the denominators are the same. Just to look at this, let's say you had, just to look at this graphically, if you had, hold up, one, if you, that's 1/3 plus 1/3 would give you 2/3. I mean, yeah, 2/3. I know these are very rudimentary drawings, but you see my point. But the only reason you can add these is because the denominators are the same. Now, let's change it up a bit. Let's say you had 1/3 plus 1/4. Now, you can't just add the numerators because the denominators are different. Okay? So you have to find a common denominator. In other words, what is something that you can change one or both of these denominators to that will allow you to have the same denominator with both fractions? If you can change one or both of the denominators, then you'll get a form of each fraction that can be, so that will allow you to add the fractions together and get an answer. All right. So to do that, you have to think about the multiples of 3 and the multiples of 4, and then find the least, that means the lowest common multiple. Least common multiple. Okay, so let's do that separately here. So what are the multiples of 3? So you have 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, and so on and so forth. Multiples of 4. You could go on and on if you wanted to, but I think that we won't really have to do that here. The multiples of 4 are 4. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 5 is 20, and so on and so forth. Now, what is the least or the lowest common multiple? Okay, so we have 3, 6, 9, 12, and there's a 12 here. That is, in other words, the lowest multiple that each of these share in common. Because think about it, another multiple that each of these has is 24. Because 3 times 8 is 24, 4 times 6 is 24, but it's not the least common multiple. If you go for like a higher one, then you end up having to probably simplify more or something like that later on when you get the answer. But anyway, so the least common multiple is 12. So in other words, we want to change the denominator of this to the least common multiple. We want to change the denominator of this to the least common multiple. So let's do that. So if we were to change the denominator to 12 here, what do you have to do to 4 to change it to 12? You have to multiply it times 3. 4 times 3 is 12. Now, whatever you do to the bottom of a fraction, you have to do it to the top as well. Why? Because if you don't, you're actually changing the fraction. Let me kind of show real quick why that's the case. So say, for example, you just multiply the bottom of the denominator times 3, and then you got 1/12 as your new fraction. So it's going to be a lot for me to draw that, but let's just try. Okay, so you have, okay, so this is 1/4 right here. And 1/12 is, let me see, so it needs to be, one, two, bad drawing, so just bear with me, 4, 5. That's 1/12. So basically what you would be saying is that 1/4 is equal to 1/12. And that is not the case. When you change the denominator of the fraction, you don't want to change the actual fraction. So that's why you have to multiply the bottom and the top by 3. 4 times 3 is 12, and then 3 times 1 is 3. That way, see, now look at this. So let's fill in 2 more of these 12s to get 3 12s. You see, that's equal. That's the same fraction. And another thing you can see is when you multiply the bottom and the top by the same number, that's like multiplying that times the fraction 3/3. 3/3 is just like, it's 1. So it's just like you're multiplying the fraction times 1 in a sense. So you're not really changing the fraction. All right, so anyway, let's keep on going. So to change this denominator to 12, you have to multiply the bottom and the top by 4. So this becomes 4/12. Now you can add these because they have the same denominator. So 4, let me erase this stuff. So 4/12 plus 3/12, add the numerators, gives you 7/12. And that's it. Remember, keep in mind, when you're talking about multiplying fractions, you multiply the numerator times the numerator and the denominator times the denominator. So you don't have to have a common denominator. You don't have to have a common denominator with division either of fractions. But when you're adding and subtracting fractions, then you have to have the same denominator for it to work. And when you kind of see like the drawing, see it graphically, it makes sense. Okay. Hope you like this video. Make sure you comment. And let me know if it's helpful or even if you need some more detail.